This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Okay, good afternoon. It is Wednesday, June 15th, and this is the meeting of the Ad Hoc Senior Center Feasibility Committee. Welcome, everybody. It's a short meeting, shorter. We always hope for that, right? We've got a lot to tackle. So I just got a quick text from Maureen. She'll be joining us in a minute. So as you all know, we did get placed. Well, you don't maybe not know. We did get placed on the select board agenda for next week. So if we could have a draft, I think, of the RFQ for the select board to take a look at and maybe review real quick. Would that be an option to do, Ed, if we got something to you tomorrow with not everything completed, but a draft anyway?
That's fine.
Okay, here comes Rainey. So we'll focus mostly on the RFQ today. Audrey, you did do your minutes. We can postpone them till next week and just because I didn't really put it on the agenda because we'll hopefully have our regular meeting next week. And then hopefully we'll have things done and we can kind of take a minute and breathe back while we let the process take over. I did send a message out also about kind of backward planning. So if we pick a drop dead date that we want to have the feasibility study completed, I think we need to go backwards and say, Ed thought 6 months might be a time frame to get that done. Andrew, I couldn't see, I wasn't able to get an update on your timeline. I don't know if you have it there or, because I know Libby has a lot of questions. How long should we wait for this? How long should we wait for that? And I think if we start at maybe say, let's have it done by everything wrapped up and into the lawyer by May 1st or April 1st, then we backward plan from there. So 6 months is realistic, Ed, for once the feasibility study is out, or what?
It really depends on how detailed you make that SOW. Could be a little bit less than that, could be a little bit more than that.
So is 6 months a good cushion? So if we plan on 6 months and it comes in earlier, I don't think anybody's going to complain.
No, I don't think anybody will complain about it coming in earlier. So
we want to start with like a May 1st drop dead date for everything to be in, or being that we have
I think that's late. We're talking the 17th. That's late.
You'd probably want it back sometime, everything finalized sometime, I would say probably around March is more realistic.
The end of March?
I would say middle to end.
Okay.
What does the will say in terms of the date and what needs to be completed by then? Does it just say the feasibility study must be completed within 1 year?
Well, it said within 2 years, but by the time we got the actual dollar amount and everything, we lost 10 months. So,
yes.
So we did some exploring of senior centers and did some legwork at that time. So May 17th of 2023 would be the very last date we can get it to the lawyer or have it approved by the lawyer. So if
the select board has to review it and approve it before that?
The study?
Yes.
I don't know, Ed. I mean, if we get it, so let me ask either Rini or Ed that question, I guess.
What's the question?
What do once the feasibility study comes to us as a committee or to the town, I guess, then the select board reviews it before it goes to the lawyers? So Attorney Kemp, or does it just have to be back in-house and we've done our due diligence to?
I would probably say you could probably do both of them simultaneously.
Both of which? Get it to the lawyer and get it to the select board for approval?
Yes.
I'd have to go back and look at the original charge for the committee to see what it says. I can do that right now if you want.
Yeah, I go ahead, Rena, if you want to look it up, but I think it was more before the things went out versus after we got them back in, from my recollection, but I don't.
How much input are we going to have during that process? I mean, are they going to come back to us in a month or two after working on it and saying, this is what we've gone so far? And if we've got changes, I mean, we don't want to wait 6 months and then they give us something like, no, that's not what we had. I mean, that's not what we wanted. I mean, is there a give and take once we start the study?
Yeah.
Yeah, you should be working with whoever is doing the study along the way.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Not wait till the end.
You need to add in interim meetings. And
Yes, yeah.
there's already a draft submittal in there, and then they should be meeting with us and then finalizing it. But maybe there's a couple of meetings, an introductory meeting and then maybe a couple more meetings. So I'll add that to the scope.
I don't have it handy, sorry.
Yeah,
I just have, yeah.
I can probably check it out, but so if we say due by March, that brings us by September, we have to have the request for qualifications and the statement of work out and
It's
selected.
before that, even because we're going to give them a certain time frame, which we need to define in the schedule. And then they might ask questions and we might need to issue addenda. So it's a little bit backed up. So it's got to be done probably pretty soon.
Yeah.
We're giving them 6 months.
So we have the qualification, the RFQ, and then we have a statement of work that we have to complete.
That's in there. That's in
It's in there already. Okay. All right, good. Andrew, do you have your timeline that you can share, and let's see where we.
Yeah, let me just pull it up real quick. Hold on. Okay.
I also have the other document we can look at, okay, great. Okay, so that's.
Yeah, I had only added a couple things, the presentation to the select board and then final recommendations. So sounds like there are some other components in motion that need to be added to this with consideration of the timeline.
Okay, so if we're looking to do it mid-March of 2022 and have the everything assigned to a vendor or to an architect by September of 2022. So what's everybody's suggestions here?
Did you mean March of 23?
23, I'm sorry. Yes. I did. March of 23.
So Andrew has on generating and issuing the RFQ by the 23rd, which is 2 days after the select board meeting. We could if they agree to it, we could probably meet that deadline. And then we can add into the RFQ the dates for questions to be answered, addenda, and for their submission. And then I don't know how long it takes to execute a contract with the town, but they'll give us a submission and then we need, a few weeks to review them. So, and then make a recommendation to the select board and then execute a contract by September. It seems doable to me.
I'd like to share the timeline also at the select board meeting, that if we can get that updated by then, I know that's Tuesday, right? So,
Yeah, I can add it after this meeting. I can take a stab at adding in dates in the schedule that's included in the RFQ. Because it outlines all of those things, and hopefully it works with, Andrew, what do you think in terms of if we issue it next week? Is it was 3 weeks too short of a time to get something back? I think it is.
Yeah, usually it's about 1 to 2 months, right?
Yeah, maybe we say 6 weeks for a week.
I think 6 weeks is reasonable.
6 weeks is reasonable.
And then within that time frame, we can give a deadline for questions for like 3 weeks afterwards, and that will give us a week to answer it and issue an addenda within 5 weeks. So, okay. So 6 weeks by after June 23rd is sometime early August.
So 6 weeks after the 23rd is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, August 4th.
Okay. Then we need a few weeks to individually review them and rank them, and then meet and do a final ranking, and then notify the proposers, and then go to the select board and then execute a contract by September. Should work, I think. Andrew, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good timeline.
That should work.
Okay, all right. So would you, we're good with sharing this, stop sharing this now, Andrew, is that okay?
Yep.
Okay, and let me just, I have the charge here, so let me just bring that up real quick and see. Determine size of center, if any building has key elements. So I'm trying to see, I know there was a reference here somewhere for the select board, it seems like. Oh, here it is, and to be reviewed by the select board. Okay, so that in the charge is the only review stage that's mandated by the charge. Does everybody interpret that the same way?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So once we're done next week, not that we wouldn't, I would feel more comfortable if we did, but that's the only mandatory one that we have prior to going to the attorney. So we should be covered at that point. Comments, thoughts, reality?
Can I ask a question? So when they need to review our recommendation for selection of the firm, because they're the ones that execute the contract, as far as I understand. Yeah.
I think if everyone had a copy of it, I don't know, I know that it's next Tuesday already, but if we end up having a copy of it or a draft of it, then it makes it a lot more likely that people would be willing to sign off on it if that's, during the meeting.
Yeah, Rini, we talked about trying to get a draft by tomorrow to Ed, so he could put in a packet for the select board. So
Okay.
There may be some updates. Do we
Okay.
want to, let me just bear with me for a second and we'll bring the draft up.
Thank you, because I'm concerned about my ability to share, given last week's issues.
Wanted to make sure I had it open before I went to look to share.
You get a lot of practice as board chair, COA board chair.
I'm used to working on Microsoft Teams, so
Yeah.
I'm struggling with this. So
As you noticed, when I was on your Microsoft team with you and Andrew, I was feeling like you're feeling with now. So, do we have a submission deadline date then?
that's the date. The submission deadline date was, let's see here. August 4th is what we
Is that
said.
the one we said, right? August 4th. Okay. So everybody agrees?
Yeah, I can make these changes if you'd like, Maureen. It's easier for me to download it to my desktop and then upload it again after the changes are made.
Okay. And then if we can just get a copy to,
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Ed
I
as
will
well.
resend it.
Okay.
Do you need a hard copy? Well, I don't know that I can make you one. I'll email it to the group.
Okay. As long as we get an email, we can print it out of town hall for the
Yes.
board meeting? Okay.
These next items, the chapter and section, Ed, I was hoping you could confirm those. I took them from another RFQ, but I am not familiar with the Mass General Law references there.
Yeah, I can double check them for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And then the next item is 10 hard copies enough? We're going to want, well, we want one original because we want original signature, although I don't know, it's probably going to be submitted, I guess, electronically. I guess that's a question. Do we want it submitted in person, hard copies?
In person.
Okay, so,
I mean, you can also have it submitted in person, but you can request that
Yeah.
they also do an electronic copy, like on a flash drive or something.
yeah, okay, flash drive. All right, yeah. And so that's what's in there. I'll keep that. 10 copies enough or less?
Generally, the one original, and then like the 10 or however many hard copies for those individuals on the committee.
And do we need copies for the select board or the final ones or?
No, those can be copied.
Okay.
I'll just leave 10 copies. We have some extra.
Yeah. So that's, yeah, I mean, there's 7 members plus a ex officio. And then now these are all, once they come in, they're all not to be shared outside the committee at that point, or how does that work? Just.
Well, basically, once we have them, they're actually
Public.
documents. So,
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't naturally share them if someone requested them.
Okay. And not proactively, but reactively, we could do that.
Yeah.
Okay. As far as the maximum fee.
I don't have a recommendation here. I can go either way. If you put a maximum fee, then firms might tend to meet that fee. But if we don't put one, then we might negotiate a fee of an outrageous fee. So.
Right. Exactly. I mean, that's the two different parameters. If you want to control the cost, it's advantageous to put in the maximum fee not to exceed, so that you don't get, shall we say, some outrageous proposals back.
And
What
how
do
do
you
we-
recommend? I mean, I think we talked about 50, 60, maybe 80,000. I'm not sure if is there anything that we can compare this to, either in adjoining towns or?
Andrew, I was going to ask you that question. I know there was one of the RFQs from a few years ago that listed $35,000 as a fee, and I don't think that's enough.
I don't either.
Yeah, I saw one too with 50,000. I wasn't sure that was enough. So.
I mean, Andrew's got a better probably perspective on it, but I was thinking probably somewhere between 50 and 75. But like I say, Andrew probably has a better feeling of that.
I was going to say between 50 and 60. I would think that we would be able to get a pretty comprehensive study done for 60,000.
There you go.
That sounds like a good number.
Okay.
And what we'll do at the end of this review, we'll have a motion to approve all the changes, not do it one by one, and we'll be here till 4:00. So. And that agreement is attached, meaning?
No, that it's highlight. I highlighted it because I need to attach it.
Yeah. And you can change that to contract instead of agreement.
Okay.
And in the in the sentence before also.
Okay.
Just doing a little quick math here. If the maximum fee is 60,000, somebody was to work for, let's say an architecture firm had a blended rate of $100 an hour, that would take roughly 15 weeks for them to fill that $60,000 quota, which would put us at November 17th of 2022. So I think 60,000 is a pretty good number. I'm not suggesting that they should get it done by November 17th,
Right.
but
Right.
If that's all they worked on.
yeah, it gives them some runway.
Yeah, that's a good back check.
That is good. Yeah, and I didn't know about calculating that. Thank you, Andrew, how that works.
Sure.
Okay. So
Ed, can you send me the agreement so I can attach it to the PDF that we're providing?
I could. Will I is a different question.
yeah,
Okay.
he's really finicky about that could, would, and
Yeah.
stuff. you
Okay,
know.
well,
And,
if I get it, I attach it. If I don't, I don't.
Yeah. I'll
We'll
send
need
it
to
to you.
attach it by next Thursday when we send it out.
I'll have to do it, but probably by the end of today, or it'll totally go by with something else will come up. So I'll get it to you quick.
So does everybody want to text Ed around 4:00 today and remind him to, no, just kidding.
And then that 2021 date will have to be changed in that paragraph also.
The study completion is scheduled being completed by,
Good catch.
thank you.
You're welcome.
And the Southampton Town Administrator is the awarding authority, or how does that?
The act, technically, the Southampton Select Board will be the awarding authority.
So Ed, about how long does that process take?
What process?
Well, so we get all the RFQs in, us as a committee reviews them.
Yep.
Then we send what we perceive to be the best one to the select board.
Correct.
And then how long does that process to create the contract take?
Creating the contract doesn't take all that long. It's pretty much a templated thing that we'll fill in the blanks with, like the dollar amount, the services, things like that. So generally, it might take a week.
What's the negotiation process that you've been involved with, Ed, with respect to the fee? How does that work?
Well, if we basically, we're going to, go through those qualifications. We're probably going to end up interviewing a couple of the firms that we think are finalists. And then basically from there, when we have one that we're probably going to recommend, basically then you work back and forth on the negotiation of that fee from their original proposal to anything that has changed in that, timeline. And usually they'll give you an hourly rate up front so you can kind of guesstimate where you might be anyway. So
We weren't asking for a fee in the proposal because it was just quals.
what's
So
that?
We weren't asking for a fee in the proposal, just quals.
Okay.
I have a question for Ed really quick. Ed, is there sort of an average number of responses that the town receives from these RFQs? Like, in the sense that my question is aimed in the sense that if we put in too many qualifying clauses in this RFQ, it could limit the amount of submissions that we get.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to be cognizant of that.
It really depends on time of year, how busy firms are, what have you. When we did the one for on-call engineering, I think I got contacted by about 20 firms that were interested. Only 6 actually sent in their qualifications. So you never know.
So
Okay.
where does this get posted? I mean, so that people know that it's there. I mean, how does that process work?
This will get posted on the website, the town bulletin board. It'll get we'll probably have to, I'm pretty sure we'll have to put it in the newspaper, but it'll also go in the central register.
Okay, thanks. Okay, moving on.
This next highlight, Andrew, this was in relating to DSB jurisdiction. This was in one or two of the RFQs that I use information from, but I don't know what that means. So
Quite honestly, I don't either.
I'll take it out. So I know what a designer selection application form is,
Mhm.
but I don't know. So I'm going to delete the DSB jurisdiction. Okay. Thank you. All right, so this is a big question in terms of criteria that the firm we want to have the firm. Yeah, I think 10 years is minimum. We want somebody who's been around a while. And then the architect should have, I don't know if they need 10 years or not. So we should talk about it. And then I think at least 5 senior center feasibility studies. And then I added in the design, 5 senior center design projects, because we might want to just continue on with this firm, and I want to make sure that they're qualified for subsequent phases and within the past 10 years. So do people have any concerns with these?
I think maybe the only thing that we may want to add after 5 senior center design projects could just be a generic clause like senior center design projects or projects of the like. It's tricky to figure out a way to word this, but similar projects that involve similar scope to what a senior center could entail.
Right, yeah.
That makes sense.
Much like referencing, at least 5 senior center projects in similar sized communities or something like that.
Sure, yeah.
You don't want to pigeonhole it too much, because I'm sure there's good architects that can come through as well.
Yeah, but you also don't want someone that has designed 10 of them, but it's been for communities that are, 30 or 40,000 people plus.
That's true.
Or 2,000 people,
Right, exactly.
Yeah, either way. So the designer selection board, the DSB, is an autonomous 11-member board that selects designers for state building projects and Commonwealth charter school projects.
Right.
Okay. So it doesn't seem that applicable here. So.
No, I wouldn't think so.
There's a specific form that that architects are used to filling out that lists their qualifications. So we don't have to go before the designer selection board, but I think it's appropriate to use that form.
Okay, great.
So Andrew, do you think having the a registered architect or engineer, you think 10 years experience is appropriate? I do. But
yeah.
At least the head engineer,
I think that's
engineer architect. Okay. All right. And 10 years experience within the past 10 years. Rini, you had a good question. I neglected to indicate the time frame. I don't want to pigeonhole them to have it done in the past 5 years, because that's difficult, especially given the last 2 years of
Right. Yeah.
So
is 10 years wide enough? I mean,
I would think so.
And not every community is building a senior center every year.
No.
yep. Because I mean, Northampton was probably over 10 years ago. Westfield was over 10 years ago, right, Joan?
I don't think so. Westfield
No.
wasn't, but Northampton was like 15 years ago.
Right.
But there are a lot in the last 5 years, but Westfield has not been 10 years yet.
Okay. Just trying to get a sense. Time goes by too darn fast. So,
in the blink of an eye.
so, okay. So is everybody comfortable with 10?
Yes.
Okay, good.
So
okay,
you're just going to add on the 2 things that Andrew mentioned. And I think it was Ed that mentioned one, the size of the town and the what was Andrew that said, similar projects with similar scopes or something like that. So it wouldn't necessarily be a senior center, but it could be some kind of a business that has similar, architectural needs.
Yeah, even a community center.
Mhm.
Okay. I'll add that. This next highlight is for Ed to check. I'm not sure what you require for inclusion in the RFQ in terms of forms. These are from some of the other RFQs.
I'll send you the RFQ we did for on-call engineering services because it's got all the forms in it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
What is a debarment certification?
It indicates that they haven't been debarred from working as an architect or engineer.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I need the town's minimum insurance limits.
Yeah, that's right in the, you'll see it in the contract.
Okay. And then complete the study by, let me see here. We said mid-March. I'll just pick a date in mid-March, March 16th or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
End of the week.
I have a 23 calendar all of a sudden. So
Okay.
So the 16th is actually a Thursday. If that works. I don't know.
And 17th, we could do end of the week.
That's St.
Whatever you
Patrick's
think.
Day. Maybe we should say the 16th.
That's a good point. Okay. Okay, and so this is the table I was referring to. So I can populate this based on our discussion. So we'll have the RFQ available on, let me see here. Oh, my notes.
To then on. To
What was
send
it?
it.
June,
June 23rd. Yeah, June 23rd.
yeah. And then I'll just work forward 6 weeks, and then probably within 3 weeks, a deadline for written questions, and then we'll give ourselves a week for the addenda, and then
The August 4th would be the,
yeah.
okay, qualifications.
Okay. And then interviews, within a week. And then you want me to add contract negotiation? Probably not. I don't know. And Ed, is it appropriate for them to be submitting this to you?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I'll just leave it as contract award if that's
I mean, would there be a bid opening, a public bid opening? This should be listed or no?
There's no bid.
Okay, because
no
it's requested
prices.
qualifications. Gotcha.
I don't think that.
No, you don't have to.
Okay.
And what was the award date we were shooting for?
Is that the September date?
I wrote mid-September, so let's think about that. So August 4th, submissions. How long do we need to review?
We talked about 3 weeks for one and 2 for, so around in September 8th, September
3
15th.
weeks to review, then
2
we
weeks.
got to shortlist 3 firms. And then if we interview them, it will be 4 weeks after that.
Okay.
So I guess, or 3 weeks after that.
So we have 3 weeks after the 4th, which is the 25th, and another month. Is that what you're saying? 4 weeks?
No. I was saying we could
Okay.
interview them.
I
So
think
what'd you
that
say?
September 8th sounds like a good date, but I'm not sure that's enough time.
So what did you say the 3 weeks for us to finish our review was August?
So that, so we're looking at August 4th, and then 3 weeks would be the 25th.
Okay. And interview the following week or the week after that, because we got to pick a date,
Yep. So
2 weeks.
the 2 weeks would be September 8th, as Joan
Okay.
mentioned, so
And
that's
select-
Labor Day week, but I don't know that it matters.
Right. Then select a firm. We need to meet again and go through our ranking and make the recommendation. So that could be the following week.
The 15th?
Yeah. Andrew, what do you think in terms of that timing? Is that enough time for?
Well, I was just going to say, to be honest, I would love if some of the RFQs that I answered had a decision date. Most of the time, I'm just waiting in the ether. I think September 15th is fine. That'll give us a week and a half with Labor Day to kind of figure it out. If we have a meeting on Thursday, the 8th, why don't we say the 16th? We can have a meeting on Thursday, the 8th and Thursday, the 15th, make our final decision on the 15th, and then have responses on the 16th
Responses to the
firms.
Okay.
Is everybody okay with that meeting timeframe? At that point?
Sounds good.
It makes it a little bit easier too, considering the grading structure. I mean, it's all going to be kind of spelled out in the however we grade the specific firms too.
Audrey, you capturing all those dates okay?
Most of them, that's why we have a recording.
Good, good, thank you. Okay, background and anything else before we go on to number 5?
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So background, so the 2059 was a list of residents we received from the town clerk. A couple months ago, Joan had requested a list of seniors. And so that number came out. Well, she had listed, I think, from 50 on. So we took the dates from 60 on and the number was 2059. So that was from the town clerk. And the other one we have a couple options we can do. So the 22% was from the US Census. Those were projections. Certainly it's turned out to, and that's 65 and over, which doesn't necessarily translate to us. So I know I sent some information. Let me see if I have that up here.
So do we want to use both or one or the other?
I mean, I don't know that it's all that critical.
Yeah,
but-
kind of information. So we do have information from the Donahue from UMass, Donahue. Let me see. This one is the McCormick Graduate School of Policy and Global Studies from the Donahue Institute at UMass that said projections of 60 and over by 2030 would be 39.3% of the population in town. So again, I don't know for this purpose if that's critical or not. The 22% again is 65 and older, and
I think since we're using 60 and over, I think, the first one is going to be good enough to use. I don't know that we need both of those.
well, I mean, projections are kind of important as we're looking to the future. So as well, but they're only projections too. So maybe not for this purpose, but maybe for when we come to the public.
Maybe we could make it consistent though, make it the senior population 60 plus instead of 65, because that looks like the conflict, like there's 33% now, but then they're going to see it's 22% the projection. So
And what's it a projection to? I didn't pick up on that.
right.
What year?
But I think we need to use the same age, 60 plus.
The other thing is what EDM warned us about is that projections are often very incorrect.
Yes, yep. I mean, they've already the 2020 projection that they had was lower than where we are today. So I mean, we could take the second bullet out and just leave the current population.
That would be my recommendation.
I agree.
Okay.
Okay.
This is the current that Rini, Joan and I kind of worked on. So
Audrey had a question. I don't know if it was a question, it was just a comment about the square footage. So I guess was it a question of whether we should include it or?
Well,
I think it's a good idea.
I mean, I think including it makes sense. Otherwise, people can't get a feel for size or anything like that. However, again, we're based on budget, based on recommendations from the firm. This is going to be really flexible.
yeah, and I think the word approximately certainly kind of grasps
Yeah.
that it's not a definitive number.
And I think the 10,000 square feet is fair because we went to visit a 6,000 square foot that I thought was large, but they were saying it wasn't large enough. So I think it's good to have that number in there.
And that population of that community of seniors was 350 people. We're over 2,000. So it's hard to make that comparison. So is there any change in language that you want, or is approximately okay?
Yeah, it was just for discussion.
It could be 8 to 12,000 square feet and, doing,
Yeah,
or just, I think they'll come back based on our population and really come to us with a recommendation.
Agreed.
Okay.
So you added the stage, is that,
I did, I think, let's see here.
we talked about it and I suppose it could be.
I mean, it's an option. It may end up saying, nope, that's not going to work. So,
Mhm,
but it's up to the group.
mhm.
We asked for a suggestion and from the COA board members, someone suggested the stage. And so I thought could be appropriate to put in. And if it doesn't make sense to the architect, then we can certainly, that's an area that we can remove.
I like it myself, but I'm glad you added.
And it can be a multi-purpose,
Right. And do some bell ringing on it or something.
Yes, I can't wait to hear it. I may have heard you, Audrey. I didn't realize you were part of the bell ringers.
Okay, so here we go.
Well, this is a question that somebody had. I thought that we would list the 4 available buildings, and I thought it was appropriate to give them some information regarding what the buildings consist of, how big they are, square footage, available space, but maybe not. Audrey said, do we need to have the detail? I think we got to at least list the locations, but I guess it's up for discussion. It's easier for a firm to develop a scope if they know what they're looking at.
Yeah, I understand that. I just thought that the Harley Davidson building was on hold for now.
I just heard today that it has something to do with pot distribution. So I think it might be on hold forever.
And between now and September, things may go on and off of this,
Okay, so do you want me to just delete the reference to the buildings? Or should they know that they're evaluating the existing senior center? And
I think I would support keeping the list, but that's just me. I'm open to discussion.
I also agree with that.
But is it 4 buildings? Is it 2 buildings? The church is off the list, so.
That's not counted in the 4. So I think
No.
for now we leave, I mean, the committee voted on Harley, the police station, the fire station, the current senior center, right? Those were the 4.
So I can just bullet them here, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
the addresses.
Is everybody comfortable with that? I mean,
Yeah.
Is that an okay
let's
thing to
bullet
do?
them.
Well, I think that I can't see the fire station being an existing building. It's already been recommended by the Historical Society to be demolished if anything's going to be built there. So I'm not really sure that we're talking about building on to the existing fire station.
True.
so we're evaluating the sites, right? Even if it's,
Yeah, maybe you put buildings or building/sites.
so that gives them a pinpoint. I know we can say 210 College Highway and lump them all together, or we can kind of separate the two.
Well, 210 is that's true. That because that's an annex to the town hall. So yeah, that would be existing senior center.
But not the fire station.
Fire station's 204.
Okay.
So sites might be better than buildings because that could be land or building.
True.
Or like you said, do a /sites.
Building/sites.
So did I miss it? You put the land in before the sites, or they both are one E is for the buildings and another says the land?
Yeah, D is the parcels.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
And you want to bullet that too? I'm sorry, I kind of skipped over there at the bottom. So are you bulleting those locations too? Shall we
I
bullet?
thought-
I thought last time we discussed that we couldn't add specific addresses of private locations,
Okay, right.
which would include the Harley Davidson building.
That's correct.
That's true.
Then I can say Harley is one other potential building.
And
How about 4 potential building available? I don't know.
so, I mean, do we want to give them the option of they find something that they feel is that we haven't referred to, and they come across something that opens up between now and September or March of next year, that we give them that flexibility to
I like that idea.
That's a great idea.
So we could say one other potential building to be evaluated, or I don't know.
I mean, how do we kind of make it a little more open-ended? I know we've, like I said, there could be things that become available between now and March of next year that we were like, we would have included had they been available today.
Plus they're experts. They come into towns and they look at things differently than we do. So I think we should leave it open-ended that, or possible sites to be recommended by the architect or something.
Yeah, absolutely, Joan.
I think we should definitely list our town buildings that we want them to either yay or nay. Just for the same reason we talked about at the last meeting. Sometimes somebody's going to ask, well, why didn't you just expand the senior center? And I think we need to be able to answer those questions.
Definitely.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, this is also just a request for qualifications. Could we
Right.
just say that the list of buildings to be negotiated in the future or upon contract award? Because really all we're looking for here, right, are the qualifications that there's a qualified firm to be able to come and conduct the study, right?
Correct.
Right.
So we may be ahead of ourselves.
Yep.
sort of. Any other thoughts?
So change it to list, or the discussion to change it to the list of the buildings to be provided or after
At time.
contract award.
Yeah, yep.
I would go back to building/sites.
Yeah. Okay. All right, I think I got it. When I send it out, somebody should definitely look at it and make sure that I captured it appropriately.
Okay.
This next, it's not headed, but it's G, item G.
Yes, yeah.
I just wanted to make sure, is that correct? Develop cost projections. No, I'm sorry, preliminary staffing and operational needs. Do we need staffing information? Is that something that is part of the study? I just highlighted it because I wasn't sure.
Well, you may or may not want the staffing. You do want basically operational or facility costs estimated going forward.
But isn't staffing part of operational?
Yeah, I'll just leave it. It's fine. And Audrey,
Yeah, I think of it more as basically maintenance, energy use, what have you.
That has been a big question right along, so I agree, it's got to be there.
Yeah,
Anybody else comments?
no, agree.
Okay.
Libby, that little highlight on G was my comment.
Yeah.
Should we ask for, should we ask for a timeline for the design process, for the construction and everything else?
yes, that's schedule. That's a good point.
Good, yep. For their timing, then they're a little bit dependent on raising of the funds and approval of the funds to move ahead after this initial phase, so.
But they could provide an estimate of how
Yeah.
long the
Yep.
design is going to take, whether it's 6 months and then construction,
Good.
procurement of property, all of that. Yep.
Great.
Okay, I'll fill in the date. Oh, actually, L, present the findings to the select board. I guess we could keep that because we did talk about that.
And I think it's a more appropriate step.
Yep, okay.
And that would be after March 16th then, correct?
Yes.
March 16th in 2023.
Yes, 2023, yes.
This next bullet, that wording seemed odd. I took it from another RFQ, applying for contract award. Who will be, I can change that to who will be executing a contract or something like that. That's fine.
Yeah, keeping the thing on the subcontract, I think makes good sense, though.
Yeah. So what we're basically asking for is their, who they are, who they're going to be including on the project. I'd like an org chart, all the resumes, all of their experience. And then if you scroll down, then we want their experience. I think the next bullet is how they're going to approach it. And then
Which bullet are we looking at here?
I'm sorry, here, back up. B.
B, okay.
Yep, so,
And C, yeah.
and C. I think somewhere in here, we also are asking for the qualifications, which I don't see it here yet. A reference list, D is fine. And then Audrey, it does say a preliminary project schedule. That's only for, I'll add in a schedule moving forward.
Right. So I guess my question was more of, this is a project schedule relative to them doing the feasibility study. I think my comment for G was a schedule based on doing the actual design and construction.
Agree. So I'll add that in there. So can you back up there,
Well,
Janet?
that potentially could be a different firm
Right.
for design, so
True, but just
I don't really know if it's pertinent here.
I think it is good to have some idea of what, if they were going to take on this project, or if this, what's the feasibility? How long would it take? I know it took us 14 months to do from, shovel in the ground, but you never know if somebody has a different idea. It's maybe they have done it before, and maybe they have information that would be helpful.
Hmm. Yeah, if they, so there's something in here that permits us to move forward with this firm if we like them without having to go out to bid for the next phase.
I'll have to look at it and make sure that sentence or little pieces in there, that it doesn't bar them from going to the next phase.
Yeah,
Okay.
there is a sentence in there, but I'd like Ed to review it just to make sure it's worded appropriately.
And I don't know if that would influence the design and building.
Well, I'm just thinking ahead. Are we asking for things that are piling on to the cost of the feasibility study that really belong somewhere else down the line?
Well, that might be true because they don't have any control over how long it's going to take to, go out, whether we have to go out for an RFQ or
I mean,
sign a contract with another firm, appropriate the funds, all of that. So
yeah,
ask for how many months do we think that it would take to execute a design and construction?
right. I think asking the questions of what you think the design fee or construction costs might be totally different.
That's granted.
Andrew, Audrey, Rini, any thoughts? Joan seems to be in agreement, right? So.
Or we just ask them in the interview.
Good. Yep. Good point.
Yeah, I think it could be a good interview piece. That's a good point.
Yeah, sounds good.
Is everybody comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, good.
Okay, on B, I don't see here anything specifically relating to the firm's qualifications, like project write-ups. I know it's in here later on, but I'm going to add that under B.
Okay.
They need to provide us project descriptions and write-ups and that type of thing to verify that they actually have completed these projects. So. Okay.
And Ed, where would you add the part about the allowing, if we so choose them to move forward without rebidding? Is that?
Well, it's not necessarily without rebidding. It just doesn't ban them from being able to move on to that.
Okay, but is there a way, if we are pleased to avoid the next step, or are we required by law to do?
Required by law.
Okay. That answers that question.
Required by law to do what?
To actually look for qualifications or bid the design phase.
I
Design and
think what I
construction.
wrote in there is wrong then.
Where is that?
It's probably up in the front. It's probably one line somewhere.
Okay, let me see. Let me go back to the front real quick and then we'll come back.
Yeah, I don't know where it is. Sorry. Keep scrolling. Hang on, right there. Go back up. Page before. Keep going back up. Okay, while the town right there at the bottom.
I just saw it where to go.
It is a town. Yes, that's a sentence. Is that correct, Ed? That was in another RFQ.
Yeah, that's fine.
I read that to mean that we can go directly to design with them without going out to RFQ.
No,
Okay,
it means you can move on and sign a contract for them. It does not preclude moving on through the next phases to get there.
okay. All right,
Went
so,
by, right? Yeah.
yeah, keep
Sorry.
going up a little bit. So what I've included here, I've changed it based on Ed's recommendation. Keep going down. I think we're all set with this.
Okay.
So selection criteria. So what I've included here, a minimum evaluation criteria, and if the firms don't meet this, then they're out, And then comparative evaluation criteria. And Audrey's comment, she's right. It's repeated here, it's redundant to the submission requirements up above. This is the way I've seen it before, but I guess we need to keep it here under the minimum evaluation criteria because they need to know what they need to submit and how it's going to be evaluated. But
And 1, 2, 3, 4.
yeah, but we also make the same notes up in the beginning. I can delete it up in the beginning and just refer to the minimum criteria, or we keep it in both places. These are the same things we already talked about.
Right, right. This
What
is
do
a
you
little,
guys- Sorry, Janet.
I don't have a problem with redundancy, but if it's, as long as it's reiterates what we said earlier on, kind of in our intro.
Oh, you know what? Because of what I'm finding with some firms right now, one thing that you may want to add to this, you've got a completion date in here. You may actually want to add a required start by date, so you don't get firms sending in their packages if they're so busy that they can't start till 2023 type of thing, or they can't start for 6 months from now or 4 months from now or what have you.
So that's on the minimum criteria.
Yes.
Okay, I can add that. Are you guys okay with it being in both places? As long as I double check to make sure that it matches? Or,
I mean, I think it's fine.
okay. So I'll modify these based on what we discussed.
And we definitely need to have it done. The start by, that's a good
There's
catch.
random comma there. Yeah. All right, and then so we then have a group of submissions that we need to evaluate. So then I've put together comparative evaluation criteria based on one of the RFQs, I think that Ed sent maybe, that was not based on points, but based on those categories. Highly advantageous, advantageous, not advantageous, and unacceptable. And so we can go through these if you like. So this is where I asked for the project write-ups, table summarizing them. Okay.
So we said they needed 5 project clients, but that's
Can you go
different than 3.
Firm, similar projects completed by the firm in the past 10 years. So I think if you go back up, so the minimum was that they had to have 5, but if they have 10, that's great.
Right.
That's what I was thinking.
Right.
But if they have 3,
Then
They're
it
up.
would be not advantageous.
Okay. Yeah,
If they have three, you're right. If they have three, they're not even,
they're not even,
that's a,
yeah,
Right.
they're not even meeting the qualifications.
so do you want me to change that?
And
So maybe
Libby,
10 or more.
yeah,
Yep.
besides the templated service contract, I just sent you the RFQ for on-call engineering. If you wanted to send that out to everyone, just so they could see how that particular one was rated, with that highly advantageous, not advantageous, feel free to do that, please.
Okay. I do think I have to change this to, so that unacceptable is less than 6, I guess.
Yeah, it would be
Because
whatever.
if we don't,
Yeah,
if I don't have 5, they're not even making it to the next
For
category.
consistency, yeah.
That's a good catch.
Well, if the minimum was 5, then the unacceptable should be 5. I mean, it should be less than 5.
5,
Or
right,
before, right?
yep. Less than 4 or less, yeah,
Yeah.
less than 5.
Well, they wouldn't even make it into the category if it's into the evaluation if they don't have 5.
Right.
So I
Right.
think it's less than 6. All right, then the next one, highly advantageous in public building projects. I think we said more than 10 years. See, we listed that they had to have been in business for 10 years, I believe, but we didn't stipulate above that it was public buildings, and that was something that we discussed at the last meeting.
This is all part of the RFQ, not the process of choosing it.
Yep, they need to know what the
What the criteria is.
yeah.
So we're on number 2, right? I mean, what's the thought on for public buildings?
Yeah, I just put in public buildings.
Okay. And then for senior centers, is that number still 5?
That's- Well, it's leading public engagement processes. This was
Okay.
again in one of the RFQs, and I thought it was appropriate because we're going to be asking them to potentially.
Yeah.
Well, actually, were we asking them to meet with the public during this process? We had talked about that.
Or at least help us put together a proper survey.
Yeah. So is this appropriate in here? Number 3?
I like it.
I like it too.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to know. I think it's good for us to know when we're evaluating them. Whether we,
Like where it says less than 1, maybe it's 0 projects?
yeah, less than 1 would be 0, right?
No similar project.
A half of a project, that's not good.
No. That's my fear, is that you get a firm involved in all this and then all of a sudden they're not around anymore.
And that's why there are minimum required areas here.
Yes.
Help hopefully avoid that. Are we
Okay,
moving-
so then
Move up.
it's up to you guys.
Any other comments from anybody?
All right, this next one is the experience of the staff assigned to the project. So we've broken it out, architect, engineers, because they may have, and it's going to be an architect responding to this, but they might have engineers on the team to do certain mechanical, electrical evaluations and cost estimating. And then I added cost estimator. Andrew, do you think for this project that they would actually hire a cost estimator to come up with a cost? Or would they do it themselves?
Yeah, usually bringing a cost estimator on board. I mean, the way that we do it here is that we're architect, engineer, and contractor all under one roof. So we already have cost estimating built in. But I think that they probably would. Usually, these firms will partner with, like you said, an engineering firm just to generate a basis of design for building typology, and then hire a cost estimator to just kind of give a high level overview.
Yep. Okay. So we have similar criteria here for all of them. You know, highly advantageous is 15 years. Advantageous is at least 10, but less than 15. So on and so forth. You know, they're all I think, can you scroll up to the architects? Janet?
I thought I did, didn't I?
Thank you. Yeah, they're all. Yep, now I see it. It's a little bit of a delay, sorry.
Okay, no problem.
So are you folks okay with this?
When the final form goes out, though, we'll have to make sure that everything's on the right line, because the 10 years is on to the unacceptable line.
It's in Word, it's fine. When it went up on Google, it's
not translating.
Formatting's a little bit.
And we'll probably PDF it before it goes out anyway, so.
Yeah,
Right.
I'll PDF. I'm not going to send it as a Word document.
Right.
So number 5, what kind of a job did they do in putting together the RFQ?
That looks fine to me. Yeah.
What's the difference? Not advantageous and unacceptable are the same.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, wait a minute, no, it's not. Many
and most, yeah.
Okay, that wording is from the other RFQ, so I guess we could keep it as is. If you guys are okay with it.
Maybe under not advantageous, we just put some items not addressed comprehensively.
And how is that different than most items addressed versus some items not addressed? So, but I'm good either way. We're good up here then? Selection process.
Yeah, so we should go through this. So we'll look at all of the submissions, make sure they meet the minimum requirements. If some don't, we eliminate them. Then we'll evaluate them according to the criteria that we just went over. We need to do this in writing. And I think the way it happens is you do it individually and then meet. From what I remember, I did it once before. I don't know, others have a different experience in evaluating it.
Yeah,
everybody needs to read it.
Yeah, and in general, with me being the chief procurement officer, the team would each evaluate them separately and send their evaluations back to me to compile them.
Okay.
Those are voting members only?
Yes.
So we'll need to develop a form so that it's consistent. And then it's, I guess what we talked about before, you put together a matrix Ed will or somebody else will put together a matrix with all of the responses, and hopefully 3 of them rise to the top, or maybe just one rises to the top, and then we don't need an interview. We'll just
Yeah.
call them in or whatever.
Right. You never know.
Right. Okay, then we say that we will rank may be interviewed if desired, and then after the interviews, we'll meet to discuss and probably have a similar ranking form that we discuss at the meeting. And then these are the factors for the final selection.
Looks good.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Now, not that we're going to add it to the RFQ, but can we scroll back up a little bit and discuss timelines that we're expecting all this, just to make sure that our timeline that we put together earlier makes sense?
Yeah, this is a lot of work.
Now, where do you want me to scroll to then?
No, that's good. So the selection process, right? So, each one of us is going to evaluate individually.
You're muted.
My bad. Let's just take a look at each individual item and just kind of go through and estimate timeframes for ourselves.
So we get them back on the 4th, and then
So A really isn't a timeline.
No.
Right? So B, remaining responses then be evaluated according to the comparison. So are we giving the committee, I think we talked about 3 weeks to do this, or can we do it in less time? What do you think?
so we're moving from the 4th to the 25th was the 3-week.
I guess it all depends on how many we get in, how long it's going to take us. I would hope that we could complete it in 3 weeks.
I would think so.
Yeah.
And if for some reason there's only 2 that really need it, can we move that time frame up once it's all established, or do we keep it as is? And
I mean, if you get it done before that, it's done before that, and you move on to the next thing.
okay, good. I just want to make sure there's nothing preventing us.
Nope.
Interview. And then Libby, you were saying like 2 weeks for an interview to schedule it and perform it.
Right. So I don't know, we do the interviews in person, but sometimes if it's 3 firms, you do them back to back to back, or you do them separate days. I don't know. I guess we can decide that, but yeah, I think 2 weeks, because we need to be able to schedule it and have it on our calendars, and that time frame, not ideal for me, but.
Okay. So C is 2 weeks, and then D is just kind of the listing of what's going to be evaluated, correct? Could you scroll down, Janet? Or up, whichever.
Which way do you mean?
No, that's good. That's good. That's
You
good.
want me to go down to E or up to D? Yes.
No,
okay.
that's right there. So D is just all the items that are going to be evaluated. That's great.
So we could even do that right then after the last interview.
Okay, so no
During the
timeline for D, really.
we rank them. Maybe after each one, we rank them, as a committee, and then
well-
you select it
But
pretty soon after.
is this the stage where Ed would be compiling all of our evaluations based on this criteria?
Yes.
So we
So
have
how long do we estimate for that timeline?
Probably about a week.
We'll give you a week, Ed.
Thank you.
It's all timing, depending on what meetings are the same week.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
So we get them back by the 4th. We all individually review them and we give our scoring to Ed by the August 25th. And then we complete the interviews, schedule and complete the interviews by September 8th. Is that the timeline? I just want to make sure I'm accurate on that.
Yep.
Okay.
okay. And then E is simply our right to reject. Our right to waive is F. G, submit recommendation to the select board. And the select board to make the final 45 business days. All right, so
That's not, yeah.
That's long.
I was hoping it was the week that we talked about.
Yeah, well, I just highlighted that because that was from another contract, but that's not right for this. So,
If we're done with our interviews by the 8th, then we present to the select board. Is that it? I mean, and they meet every other week, so 45 days puts us, I think, beyond our,
no, we don't need 45 days. I'll change that.
what's realistic.
But it does say it reserves the right to award the contract up to 45 business days. So that might be fine if we find there's something we need to, we want them to hold the qual statement for a certain amount of time. I guess, I don't know. Ed, what do you think?
I mean, my only concern is somebody, potentially from the select board says, well, we don't have to deal with this for another,
Yeah.
Yeah.
5 weeks.
And actually, if we add up the timeline, if we're saying 3 weeks for us to review, 2 weeks to conduct the interviews, and a week for Ed to compile, we're at 42 days anyway.
Are we talking about 42 days after the returns are in?
Response due date. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
After the response.
Okay, so we're not talking about after the interviews.
No, I read this as after they submit the RFQ, right?
After the business days, after the response is due. The response is due August 4th.
Right, and I just added up 3
Yeah,
weeks, 2
I
weeks,
agree.
1 week.
Okay.
Doesn't take long.
No, I thought we were talking about from the September date. That was my concern, so.
Right.
I did too. So, okay. Even though I wrote it, that's what I thought when I reread it. So I think we're good.
Yeah, I would leave it.
Because we talked about having our decision by September 16th, so. Okay. And then the agreement. Okay, so we're good the 45 days?
Mhm.
Any other attachments? I don't think so. Ed, is there anything? I know you sent me, I'm looking at my phone right now and seeing that you sent me, I see my email that you sent me something. So I'll look and see if there's any other attachments that you typically add. Nope, you're muted.
There's some forms and stuff that usually go in there also that you will see.
Okay,
I'll send you a list of those too.
okay, great. I guess I got my work cut out for me.
Yeah, looks great though, Libby. Thank you. Nicely
Yeah,
done.
looks very good.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you. So it's going to be done by tomorrow. Is that what we said?
Sure.
And what's the plan for Tuesday? I'll definitely be there. Is it just a representation, not the whole group, or?
It's next on the agenda, I think. So as soon as we wrap this, so we
Yes,
have the.
I will have it for you by tomorrow. It might be end of the day. I have a work meeting in the morning. But I'm going to try to wrap it up now and this evening. So,
Well, thank
Thank
you for your.
And I'm going to have to sign off. So good seeing you all.
Okay, thanks for your help through this
You're welcome.
process.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Take care.
All right, so the joint meeting with the select board and the public safety, I mean, I think that we can briefly discuss some of the properties that we were interested in, but I think really providing them the RFQ for their approval to keep on our timeline is probably the most critical at this point. I mean, we can share with them some of our evaluations, but who is able to make, is everybody able to make the meeting? I did post a joint meeting. It would be in person, so I got to find out, Andrew, if there's a way for you to come in hybrid.
Yeah, this is the Tuesday one.
Yeah,
At 6 o'clock,
6 o'clock, yeah,
6 o'clock, okay.
I can attend.
I can attend.
good. Joan just said she could, yeah. I think we know Rini will be there.
Is that in the select board room or?
It's a select board meeting, so I'm assuming so, yeah. Yeah. Although they met yesterday in the upstairs room for the executive session, so you can't always be sure, but I'm sure it will be.
It's
So, I mean,
it's posted in the select board room.
it is, yeah, okay, great. And do you mind walking through the RFQ, Libby
Sure.
and Andrew? Or Andrew through the timeline or what, you know?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I'm just looking at it. I should be able to make it in person on Tuesday.
Okay. I know they'd be happy not having a hybrid meeting, so.
I think we all would.
So if they're gonna have all that in front of them, I don't know if we have to go through it step by step. Maybe we do, but I don't know if you just do highlights, how that all works.
Yeah, I don't
We'll
know
probably
what
have them-
type of presentation.
Yeah, I mean, we may want to, if it's possible,
Yep.
to have a projected during the meeting. So if there are people in the audience that, you know, from home or in the room can see it as well. So if we can post it electronically, that would be great, Libby, or not post it, but bring a laptop. And we can have Ed help us set up, you know. Or
Okay.
whoever
Yeah, I
wants to.
can do
I mean,
that. If somebody can help me set it up.
Yeah, we'll get it set up.
You want to
Okay.
use the Council on Aging laptop. I don't know if that makes a difference, but
What kind of a laptop is it?
Lenovo.
Word.
LENU.
Oh, it's the same as mine, I think. As long as it's not a Mac. Because I have one at home and I don't like it.
So do you have access, Joan, through that to the shared drive? Have you?
I've never done it. I just know that the laptop is here. It just needs to go to the next room.
I can
So
bring my
it's
laptop.
something
I
that we
just-
can practice ahead of time.
I'll be bringing my laptop. The thing's always with me anyway, so
All right,
Okay.
I'll let you project it and I can go through it.
sure.
I'll bring mine too, but I just don't know what kind of cables I need to connect to it.
Yeah, they have pretty good connections, but I'll double check with that on the connections.
Yeah, we have an extra cable here in the COA, whatever that cable is.
Is it an HDMI cable? I don't know.
HDMI, yes, HDMI.
Okay. All right, then I need to bring that.
Okay, so we'll do a quick intro of the committee, just talk about some of the properties we've looked through and narrowed down that actually won't be included in the feasibility listed, but other than town buildings, right? Anything that's, but we'll be open to other suggestions by them by the end of the feasibility study if something else comes on the market.
As chair, we have a co-chair. Are you going to take the lead?
Well, Andrew and I are both chairs, so I may just do an intro to the committee and, you know, talk about what we've done to date and turn it over to, we're a committee. We all have our strengths, so I'm not going to interpret Libby's work or Andrew's timeline. So everybody will have an opportunity to speak if there are questions asked and people have, and anybody gets stumped. So we're definitely a great, well-rounded team. So I'll probably just kick it off and then turn it over and, you know, be there.
And then Andrew goes first with the timeline.
Yeah, I
Is that
think
how you
that,
want to do it?
yeah, what do you think, everybody? Does that make sense?
I think it makes sense.
Yeah, then you explain why we need them to, what we need to get this on the street. You know,
Yeah, this is not,
ASAP.
hopefully it won't be delayed. As a
You know,
result.
if it is delayed, we can tell them we need it back in 5 months. It's not set in stone, I think, you know.
What do you mean?
The
RFQ
you know,
needs-
if it's delayed a month, then we can just stipulate in the RFQ that we needed, they only have 5 months to do the work rather than 6.
6. Okay, I hear what you're
Yeah,
saying.
I mean, it's not ideal. Firms are really busy right now. It's
Yeah.
really a tough situation.
So what's our specific goal for Tuesday? To get the select board to sign off on the RFQ or just to give them information? What is our expectation?
I think we need them to sign off on the RFQ to move forward.
Okay.
Does anybody else agree or disagree with that?
I
I
agree.
agree.
I agree.
But I also, when we originally were talking about the joint meeting, were we going to discuss with the other committee the overlap of the projects, sites?
Yeah, I think we should also discuss, so we kind of have a dual purpose. One is to share our list of properties compared to their list of properties, and the other is to review the RFQ and get a sign off by the select board.
It's an opportunity to be transparent. You know, it's really important that we, you know, share what we
Right.
have done and what we know and what, you know, are moving forward.
Is this an opportunity for us to ask them to move forward, sending out the letters to the private property owners, or is that not yet?
I mean, my gut feeling is it's not at this point in time, but
Okay,
I'm open to, you know, I don't have all the answers. I mean, can we do that at this time and say that we're interested and then add it to the feasibility study to have them be more specific? I mean, maybe there's a plus to doing that.
I think we should at least introduce the idea just so that they can't come back and say later, well, we had no idea that this was even in play. So I think it's worth an introduction to the idea.
Yeah, at least that at that point, we may be able to include you know, and in our discussions, once we've selected an architect, what the key
And
properties are.
yeah, we need to know our specific list by then.
Yeah.
And also, if the other committee, the Public Safety Committee is sending out letters to property owners, the letters should reference both.
Right. Yeah.
Potential.
So
They won't be sending out letters. It would be the select board.
board.
That's what I meant. I meant the select board on
Yeah.
behalf of the Public Safety
Yeah.
Committee.
So
And Reenie's on both of those committees, so she probably knows the timeline on when those letters should go out.
Well, I can say about the Public Safety Building Committee that there's a lot of history there, and some of it is, what word should I choose? Some of it is a little controversial. And I think there's been, well, first of all, they have a lot of the same properties in mind as we do. And they also had a landowner come to the last meeting offering to donate land. This was a particular land that there were some questions about in the past. I'll leave it at that. So I think the Public Safety Building Committee is more than anxious for the select board to send letters out. So I imagine that would be a specific request that they want to move forward with sending letters out to landowners. So in that case, if this committee was in agreement with that, then the select board would send out a letter, or Chris Fowles, our chair, would send a letter saying, would you be interested in donating for the purposes of a public safety complex and/or senior center?
And using the word donating?
Donating or purchase.
Okay.
any idea on timeline for that? So, you know, if it takes a week or two for the select board to compile the letters and send the letters, then how long do we give the property owners to respond back? I just want to make sure that by the time we have that we want to select a firm for our feasibility study, that we actually have the list of properties confirmed to give them so they can move forward and we're not holding them up.
So the letter should probably have a deadline, in the next 30 days, could you make a decision or whatever, if you think is fair, 45 days, whatever you.
I think in the past, when this was done, there was no deadline given. So out of maybe 6 property owners that were written to in the past, only 2 people wrote back.
Wow.
And it wasn't one of the properties that was high up on the list. So that's when there was an attempt to reach out specifically to that person. This is why it's so important for me to do this according to a very methodical process, because one of the property owners wrote back and said, yes, we're interested. And we ended up buying some land. It's the land that used to be the old Grange on College Highway. And that was with the thinking that if we ended up having that land, then it could either be used for a septic system for the former town hall, or it could be an additional egress from the current police station. So we do own land that is on College Highway that was where the old Grange was. Another person wrote back and said, yes, they're interested. And because I think the committee had alternative idea, that landowner was never written back to and was very unhappy about it. So that's why I think that I agree with you, Joan. I think that we send out letters, we ask them to reply by X amount of time, and then we have an agreement on how this is going to be followed up with, depending on who we hear from or not, because I think that caused some of the problems last time.
Mm-hmm. So, Rini, in the order of things that we want to accomplish, we have the timeline that Andrew's going to review, the RFQ for approval, and we also have a request for letters to certain property owners. So is there any sequence of order for those 3 things that make the most sense from everybody for Tuesday?
I think the timeline would be first, I would imagine. I think there would be the requests for quotes, and then discuss specifically the land.
Okay, that's what I had, but I just wanted to.
But I also want you to know that the Public Safety Committee, I had suggested last time that maybe a subgroup get together and discuss, must-haves and what would be good to have. And their response was, well, we'll have plenty of time for that. So they're a little bit behind, further behind on that. They don't have any kind of draft of feasibility. They don't have funding secured for that right now either. I had asked for a placeholder for ARPA funds because that's the only way we're going to be able to get money quickly to be able to have a feasibility study for a public safety complex. But I'm only 1 out of 5 members of the select board. So I don't know if we approved about $1 million in ARPA funds a few weeks back. And that was mostly town funding or town employee funding. So I can't guarantee that the funding will be reserved for public safety, but their interest is identifying the lands and getting the letter out to landowners. So that's what they're going to be requesting of the select board, I think.
Okay.
Can I ask a question, Maureen? Is there going to be some consternation on that committee's part with respect to the fact that we're much further ahead and might potentially be evaluating these properties for a senior center and potentially ahead of this public safety complex?
No, because I've been reporting back and forth to both committees, what's been going on. And so they're well aware that a lot of the properties are shared. They're well aware that we have a deadline. They're well aware that we have funding.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So we never really officially made a motion to approve all the changes to the RFQ. So if we could somebody make that motion just so we have it on the record, please.
I make a motion that we approve everything that we discussed for Libby's RFQ.
Okay, second.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor, just voice. Let me go through the list here. Audrey?
Aye.
Libby?
Aye.
Andrew?
Aye.
Maureen?
Aye.
And Janet, aye. Okay, great. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure we had that on the record. So, okay, so we'll, I'll communicate to Chris and Ed for our request and what we expect to cover and Tuesday's meeting. I kind of already listed out the properties to them. So that was in a previous email, but I will let them know that we're expanding it to also share with them our timeline and to meet the requirements of the will and also our RFQ approval. And thank you again for all the time and effort, Libby, especially to put into that. It's fine. All the, for those that reviewed it and gave feedback as well. So thank you for that too. All right. Anything else? I think our next meeting, obviously the select board, and since we have some deadlines for the 23rd, are we okay to meet on the 23rd? I know this is a crazy time to be having quite so many meetings, but, and then we can try to get back on our schedule.
I already stated I'm unavailable.
I'm unavailable.
I'm going to be late. I have
You're
a
gonna be late?
work meeting until 1 o'clock.
So we just said by the 23rd was going to be.
Do we need to meet on, can we meet a week from today on Wednesday instead, or?
I think that works for me.
Me too. I have something, I think I have to leave at 2:30, but yeah, that would be fine with me.
Yeah, I have a potential meeting, but it's not until I think 3, a little bit later for the ad hoc committee meeting. So, okay. So is the 22nd work for everybody then?
I won't be able to make it, but I can catch up with everybody.
Okay. You sure?
Darcy, would need to confirm with Darcy and.
Yeah, I'll get to Darcy, but you want to schedule it for the 22nd at this point in time?
12:30?
Is it 12:30 work for everybody on a Wednesday?
Sure.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay,
Thank you. I'm sorry. I had a planned day
Me too.
away.
that's okay. That's okay. You were in good company, it looks like, so. Okay, great. So anything else before we adjourn? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Okay, Audrey, all in favor, Audrey,
Aye.
Libby?
Aye.
Andrew?
Aye.
Rini?
Aye.
Janet, aye. Okay, great. Thank you, everybody. And John,
Yeah,
you have.
thanks.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.